Okay. We are joined here with three NASCAR Xfinity Series drivers. Kaz Grala drives the number 61 IT Coalition 1540, and Daniel Hemric drives the number 21 South Point Hotel and Casino Chevrolet, and Ryan Truex, who drives the number 11 Phantom Fireworks Chevrolet. Well, we open the floor for questions. Will Amy here?
Amy Harrop, Race for Weekly. Question is for Kaz. Like, how does it feel to be back at home? And, you know, it's been a trying season for you this season, but just how does it feel to be back at your home track here?
Really good. I mean, we've been concerned about sponsorship the last few weeks, and we didn't make it out to Kentucky, but this was a race that all year long, even before stuff started to go downhill early in the year, this was the one I was waiting for. So I'm really excited to have gotten IT Coalition 1540 connection on board and to get us out to the racetrack here, because this is an important race for me, and it's always fun to have friends and family out here. It's only about an hour and a half from where I grew up, so this has always been a big event for me, and now I'm taking the next step in the Xfinity Series here.
We'll go Jeff here in the back, and then we'll go to the right with these two gentlemen.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. For anybody who wants to answer it, what would the challenges be if Xfinity went to a dirt track? It seems like the cars are sealed down a little bit more than trucks. So would they have to be modified in any way?
I mean, I think, you know, it's kind of a two-part question. And I think even outside of that question, the trucks are obviously, they run around the racetrack the same way the Xfinity cars do as far as on the ground, everywhere we go. So they were able to make the same chassis adjustments and ride height adjustments in order to, I guess, to fill in for what they needed, you know, at Eldora. So I don't see why, if we ended up in a situation like that where we had to, we couldn't conform as well. I know our splitter height is, I think, an inch or two lower minimum or maximum splitter height, so that may be the only thing, is they may have opened up that window, but from the parts and pieces standpoint, it wouldn't be that big of an adjustment, I don't believe.
Pat Ticola, NASCAR.com for Ryan. The guy that just walked out, is it weird to see him win an ESPY? Like, what's that feeling?
It's cool. It's, you know, I'm his biggest fan. You know, I grew up, from the time I can remember, I was at the track watching him from, you know, Wall Stadium and Modified all the way up to the Cup Series now. So I know how deserving he is and how hard he's worked for it. So it's cool to see him get that recognition. And it hasn't gone to his head yet. He's, you know, he's still that down-to-earth guy. So it's been pretty cool.
Do you think it will?
No, I don't think so. He's not fazed by much. So I think he'll be just fine.
Go ahead.
Terrell Covey with the Portsmouth Herald. That's a question for Kaz. You know, for you, as she was mentioned earlier, it's been kind of a tough year, but you've continued to perform pretty well when you get out there. First off, how have you been able to kind of keep your head straight with everything else going on? And secondly, how important would it be for you to actually come out here and pick up a win here?
Well, that would be huge, and that would be a career changer, of course. But for me, I like to just keep a cool head, and from my standpoint, going to the track, it doesn't matter what team or what car I'm in, my responsibilities and goals are still the same. So even though we did switch over to be Fury race cars here about 6 races ago, I've continued to keep doing what I was doing early in the year. And I feel like even especially the last few races, our speed has really been picking up, and speed really fixes everything. So once we're a little bit faster, we start running better and get better finishes. So this car here, luckily, the positive of not going to Kentucky was we got a little bit more time with this car to work on it. So we've got our fingers crossed that this could be our best car yet.
Let's go to Mark.
Mark Arrow, PRN. I got one question apiece, Ryan and then and Daniel. Ryan, I look at your stats, and you guys are pretty well cranked in there, 10th to 15th. Do you feel you guys are getting ready to make that next step to where you're more of a 5th to 10th as opposed to 10th to 15th?
Yeah, I mean, we're working really hard. I feel like we've had our bright moments where we've run in that, you know, 8th to 12th region, and it seems like the last few races we've kind of been experimenting a little bit and just trying to find something that works for me as a driver, and something I'm comfortable with. So I felt like we actually made a really big gain at Kentucky last week, but we fought something else there that hurt our speed really all weekend. So we didn't really get the finish that I thought the car was capable of. But we've been starting to kind of go the direction that the 21 car's been going. You know, being teammates with him is nice because I can look at what he's doing and try to mimic it. And obviously they've had a lot of speed this year. So trying to just follow suit and find that speed to where we can run with them.
Daniel, speaking of speed, you have had a lot of it. How frustrated are you that you proved you can finish third, proved you can finish second, and, the win just continues to elude you guys?
No, you're right. It definitely has eluded us, but I've also been in a situation where I've ran 10th to 15th and couldn't figure out how to make that next jump that Ryan, the 11 team, are trying to make too. So I'm proud of the effort that we put in, and when you put the effort in, you see results. That makes you feel like, as a whole, you're doing something right. And I know at the end of the day that my 21 teams, they have my back. They're doing everything they possibly can to put me in a position to win races, and they know I'm doing everything I can on the racetrack to try to give them wins. And just hasn't all worked out in our favor yet, but I know the opportunities will continue to be there if we keep putting ourselves in position. And I think a lot of like what Ryan was talking about was, well, we have some teammates that we've all shown that if we can get close to each other's baseline, that when one of us have speed, the other cars, if they don't completely stay on path, that it's easy to lose that. But it's also, we proved last week that from a company-wide standpoint and from having teammates like them to lean on, we're able to make adjustments throughout the race to find that speed, and that's something I feel like we haven't been able to do in the past, and that's given us more opportunity. And as soon as those guys get to where I feel like they're on the same page and make the same kind of adjustments throughout race weekends, I think all of us should have more and more shots as we go down the road.
Gentleman right over here.
Bill Thomas, WPKZ Radio, Fitchburg, Mass. Questions for Kaz. Kaz, I know we've talked extensively in the last few weeks. You've been points racing, trying to make up that gap. Ryan's one of the guys you've been chasing. Now missing the race last week. Is that going to change your strategy coming into stages? Maybe do what other people aren't doing around trying to protect points?
Definitely. I mean, unfortunately, Kentucky did end our prospects of making it into the playoffs on points. So now we get to just try to race for wins. And more importantly, even than wins, is racing for 2019. We're trying to prove ourselves as a team and myself as a driver to where I can lock down a ride or a sponsor for 2019 full time. So right now we're basically just in the proving process, and so that's why we're going to as many races as we are.
Kaz, I talked to you briefly in the garage area earlier. I asked you why you didn't start in park last week, just to keep that string going so you would have the consecutive races. You talked about sponsor value by not doing that. Can you explain that a little bit? I really didn't understand that, where you basically backed yourself in the corner having to win.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like at this high of a division, it's going to be hard to get into the playoffs on points anyway. But when you go out and you start in park, now you're putting yourself in an even deeper hole in points. So I'm pretty sure right now, even though we can't make it in on points, we probably wouldn't have been able to doing that either. So we might as well focus our efforts and our time on trying to run as well as possible, try to put ourselves in a position for a win, and that helps our partners, that helps my potential future, and still could put ourselves in a position to request a waiver.
Any other questions? Right here in the front.
Question for Daniel. Nicholas Tito, YankeeRacer.com. You mentioned the collaboration helping this team. Obviously, you made the championship 4 last year, but what's been the difference this year that's allowed the car to be more consistent and contending in the top 5?
Honestly, I may get in trouble for saying this, but I think as a company, any successful company, I think at the Cup Series level, and they happen to have Xfinity Series teams, they all tried in some way, shape, or form to stay on the same kind of baseline. And I think the further we continue down that path in the past, that we've kind of got disconnected from the rule differences and from some of the things that made the Xfinity cars what they are, with the exception of what the Cup cars are. And I think we were able to be given a little bit more freedom on the Xfinity side of things to kind of treat it as our own cars and do our own things with them. And I think the results and speed is kind of shown for itself. So I think as a whole, that's allowed us to make the steps in the right direction, and we're continuing to go that direction. It's no secret that RCR hasn't been where they want to be, and I'm as big a part of that as anybody over the past 2 to 3 years. And at least on the Xfinity Series side of things, I think we're turning the corner and doing a lot of things right. And if that happens to help the Cup side, that's all fine and good, because at the end of the day, when I roll through those gates on Monday morning, there's 430 people there working their tails off to give us race cars that, in both series, the best that they're possibly capable of. So if we're making a stride in the right direction, hopefully it's a good thing for all of us as a company.
Anybody else? Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck this weekend.